The grace of the master is extremely important. In order to understand what grace is, you have to understand what a master is. We are all born on this earth. We have taken a birth for a purpose. Way before we entered the womb of our mother, we chose to come to learn. We chose to come to learn something that would help us move along our spiritual path. We were in a cluster of souls, and people from our cluster also chose to be born close to us to help us in our journey. So rebirth is something that all of us experience. We will be born again and again and again until we lift and lift and lift our consciousness with each birth, and we reach the levels of the masters. Okay, it's somewhat like tuning a guitar. They are tuned to a very high frequency. Masters are at a very high frequency, and we're kind of getting there. And sometimes the finger slips and we get a glimpse of that frequency. And we know what it's like to be a master. And sometimes we don't. And this is the essential difference between reincarnation and rebirth. Masters also choose to come, but they come with the knowledge of generations, with the idea of uplifting others. Their whole purpose in life is to lift others above and beyond. So, a master will come and be born in a slum in New Delhi and be doing social work and teaching people how to be clean. But he will be selfless, and the effect that he has on that society will be unbelievable. A master does not necessarily need to belong to a church or a mosque or a temple. Masters come in different forms, in different places. Wherever they are needed, they reincarnate. They are fully aware of the level of their divinity. Although, like all of us, there will be a period of delusion. We are all born, and then we don't know why we're here, and the masters don't know why they're here. It is said that Lord Rama from the Ramayana was a reincarnation of the god Vishnu. The Vishnu is the preserver in the Trinity. And when he was about 12 or 13, he had tremendous depression because he didn't know why he was here. And sage Vasishta, who was the sage for the royal court, speaks to him and reveals to him his own purpose, his own divinity. And that's when he knows what he's about. So we have a period of delusion. Masters too have a period of delusion because they're born human. And to be born human is to forget all that's happened. All that's happened before. But once the master has a vision of what has to be done, then it's just a question of the law of attraction. He's going to be attracting whoever needs to be attracted. The master will find you somehow. And without his blessing, without the blessing of the tradition of masters, the grace is never going to flow. The benefit is not going to be there. The grace of the masters comes from years and years of meditation, of knowledge. So when you sit down to meditate, if you invoke the blessings of your master, he is present right there, right with you. Who is to say he's not in this room right now? We are not psychic. We don't know. But one time something really creepy happened. We had a group like this, a satsang, a meditation. And Karunya, my daughter, and myself were sitting next to each other and meditating. And there was a lady in the room who apparently was psychic. And then they told us later that, she's psychic. I said, really? You see, the other thing? She says, yeah, there was a lady between you and your daughter wearing glasses. An old lady wearing a sari and glasses. We were like, oh my God. This is really strange. It was. But you know what? There are people who see the masters. Like there was a little boy, my meditation teacher used to say, that, who's that bearded guy up there watching us? And, we don't know about the bearded guy, but consciousness is so all-pervading that our masters are with us right now. How many times I have been at a loss and I have called my father for help. And then I find the solution through some means or the other. It's not that he presented himself in front of me, but I just found what I had to find. It happens to so many of us, we ask for help. Oh my God, please help us. You're throwing your hands up at that moment and then you're getting something flowing in your life. Grace flows when the resistance stops, when the limitations are removed. We limit ourselves. We do not allow the divine to work through us because of a doubt in our heads that I can't believe that this can happen to me. You don't want to believe in the miracle that's waiting to happen. There is something big that's just in your destiny. Something huge that you were made for. But you don't want to, you're ready to accept your limited life with all its limitations. You've put a cap on the bottle and you're not allowing anything to enter. You open the cap of the bottle and allow the water to flow, and a bottle of colored water in no time will turn white. I once saw an experiment conducted by this black boy, and someone had put it on Facebook. It really moved me because it's so true. We stop our prayers too soon. And by doing that, we are putting limitations on ourselves. And as soon as you put a limitation, the grace stops flowing. So he takes a bottle of water and it's colored black. And he says, this is your situation now. You are terrible. You have a terrible disease. You have cancer or something that's completely incurable. You have a job loss and no chance of getting another job. You have a child with a disability and you don't know how to deal with that. You have, money difficulties, social difficulties. It could be anything. A situation can be anything. And we all have different situations. And that's where our water's all murky. We don't see anything good in sight. And then he puts the bottle under the tap and the water starts to flow. The grace starts to flow. After about 10 minutes, it's still like a light gray. This is when we stop. We stop believing. We stop praying, saying, this is my lot. I'm never going to get out of this. The minute you've said that, boom, it's gone. The grace has stopped flowing. The minute you stop believing, boom, the grace has gone. But you keep that water, that bottle under the tap, no limitations. You remove the cap and allow the water to flow. Allow it to flow. After 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes, it's pure and white. Like a miracle. Try it at home. Try it at home with food coloring. It happens. You see, because the divine grace that flows in our life doesn't flow according to what we plan for ourselves. We can plan anything. But the divine will give what is due to us at the time that we're ready for it. You have to be ready for it. It's not going to come to you before that. I spoke to you last time about my astrologer who told me your job is going to be seva. Seva means selfless service. And I said, how am I going to serve? What am I going to do? So I called Women in Distress. I called some volunteer organization here, Volunteer Coral Springs. And somehow it wasn't gelling, it wasn't coming through. And I spent the whole of last year just trying to figure out in what way I was supposed to serve. I had both the talents that I have now for the last 5 or 10 years. I could write and I could meditate. Both these things I knew very well. But I didn't know how. I was not yet ready to offer that to anyone else. And who was to say that these 2 talents would become my service to the community? It is just grace when the time was right, without my wanting anything, without my even asking for anything. Teva just mentioned, why don't you teach me meditation? Started as simple as that. Why don't you teach me meditation? And Teva, Susie, myself, was there anyone else in that first day? The 4 of us?
Yeah.
There were 4 of us. We just started meditating. And that was it. It was supposed to be a support group where all of us were supposed to chit-chat and bring anything we wanted. I don't know how I find myself talking like this. Or when that happened, how that happened, how I'm even capable of doing it. All I can say is the divine grace flows in very strange ways. It's even, you feel that when you write. When you're writing, you don't plan to create a chapter that begins with this and ends with that, and the way it's going to flow is going to be this way. Some people write like that, but I don't. I just go to the computer right after my meditation and I say, okay, now what shall I do? Close my eyes and whatever occurs to me, I start. And I go where the story takes me. And you actually feel as if there's somebody sitting here directing this whole movie in your head. And it all comes out and you read it after and you say, wow, I didn't know I thought about these things this way. I didn't know that I had this story in my head. Writing's very much like that too. Divine grace is very strange. It's something that's very difficult to put into words. All it means is that you open the gateway. When that grace flows, the love that you are, that's inside of you, comes out. That door opening here does not mean that any love outside is going to come in. Love is not outside of you. And that love that you get from people is very temporary. Because I always tell you, you are here and people and events pass you by. Right? They're here for a while, they've gone. Somebody said something fantastic to you and they're gone. you know, who loves you, who doesn't, I don't know. But that love that you feel for others, that is precious. And to unopen that door is not easy. We have a lot of reservations. We don't want to love unconditionally. We have limitations there too. I love you if you have no vices. I love you if you are Jewish. I love you if you're, from my background. I mean, more or less from my background, If you've got kuris in your hair, I can't love you. I love you if your skin color is the same as mine. We have a lot of limitations. Some of these limitations we are not even aware of ourselves until it's thrown in our face. Divine love is unconditional. It loves because it doesn't come from outside, it comes from within you. It is said in our Upanishads, our religious texts, that from a germ of love, the human body was made, the DNA was created. It's that missing particle. It is said that beyond this life, the soul is pure love. There is nothing negative there. So if you want divine grace to flow, you have to open this doorway. You have to open this doorway and allow it to end. Allow the grace to come in. And when that grace comes in, you'll know it. You'll feel that love in spite of so many other limitations, all the conditioning that we've had all our lives will be thrown out the window. Like when I was a child, my mother and father did not encourage us to meet with a lot of Muslim people because they grew up during partition and they saw the riots, the Hindu-Muslim riots. And they were also very, very homophobic. These two things were passed on to some extent to me. But I can tell you some of my closest friends now are Muslim. After all, the choices we make should not make any difference to the divine, because we are images of the divine. Consciousness is the same. When you say that God made us in His image, what did He mean? What did they mean by that? Not that our physical form is the same, but that divine consciousness is one. And that flows in everything that lives. So grace exists most of all in nature. You spend even 10 minutes sitting outside and just looking at the palm trees, just swaying in the breeze, or just admiring these amazing flowers that are there at the entrance. There are these pink and white blooms. It's a very strange combination of pink and white. I mean, every time I pass by, I'm like, oh my God, this is just so beautiful. When you admire that nature, you can see the grace flow. When flowers bloom, when the wind blows, when the sea laps against the shore, when the rain comes down, everything is divine grace. Nothing happens without grace. All you have to do is to just let it flow. You have to ask. Jesus always says, right? I was watching a movie today that says, you need to ask and it shall be done. So ask. Ask for divine grace and you shall have it. It's really up to us. And it's the best thing that can happen, because then you will be fully aware of the love that you are. And I keep saying that you are love. And you must be thinking in your mind, the only love I know is the emotion. And that emotion is so connected to everything outside of me. What do you mean by divine love? You feel it in a group setting, in a temple, when bells ring, when a prayer is being said, when there's beautiful singing, that emotion rises within you. That beauty is perfect as it is. When you see something that's just perfect, like this sight of the moon reflected in the water, just perfect, needs nothing. That's when you realize that you are love. It's just a feeling. It cannot be described. It cannot be described. Even as I talk about it, it's totally destroyed. It's totally destroyed. But, I hope I was able to shed a little light on what grace is. It just is far bigger than words can describe. It is an experience. It's like saying, who is God? Are there any words? Once I start describing it in words, it becomes an object, a form. And really the understanding of the divine, of consciousness and of grace is far beyond any words anybody can say. Nobody can tell you what God means to you. It's an experience. You can never tell another person what your divine is or what your relationship is with that divine, or how it feels when you're in touch with the divine. Can't describe these things. It is a very personal thing, and it has to be experienced to be known. And I'm sure the grace is flowing in your life. I'm quite sure.